And that's where we're going to take this from everybody. We are going to introduce here not only a adopted little sister of mine, but also a phenomenal powerhouse of a speaker, a mother of two sons, that when she talks about her boys, as you can see already, she's already got a smile the size of the Grand Canyon. But she's a mother of two incredible sons. She's obviously married, and I met her husband once at I think it was Movement Maker Live last year. She absolutely adores her husband. She's an entrepreneur. She loves chickens, and she's building a life of her dreams. And you know what? Every time that Ashleah Burkeen comes to the summit, my life is overjoyed. And guess what, y'all? Not only is Ashleah our first speaker of the summit, but she's also the Mountain Summit Virtuals MC for the very first time. And so, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, let's put our hands together for a living legend. Ashleah, the mountain is yours.
Thank you, David. First and foremost, once again, thank you for having me back. I actually look forward to these now, so I think you're just gonna have to ask me forever now because I don't think I haven't done any of them, and so I will be expected to be here every time for you. Okay, so thank you for having me as always. I'm stoked to be the MC and open it up. Hey, sweetheart, I love shiny baby faces in the morning. Yes. Um, so first, I want to open up, though. Hopefully, I can kind of set the tone for what to expect. If you've been to a summit before, you expect the unexpected, right? We always think we kind of know what we're in for, and then we find ourselves crying or in our feels or having a moment where we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was going to happen, or some kind of relatability. So hang in tight. But I want to start us off by talking about loss, right? Because you will hear some stories about loss today in different capacities. And so I just want to talk about it in general and start there. Oh, from timer. Sorry, it's saying press buttons, David. And so I'm trying to focus. Okay. So from December 2022 through December or through 2025, if you would have stalked my social media platforms, here's what you would have learned about me. Okay, I own a micro farm. I lip sing and dance with my animals. I'm obsessed with my dogs. I embrace my ADHD, not medicated, but coping. Right, I'm on my healing journey and in full effect. Boundaries are being set. I'm writing a book, right? I have a grossly perfect marriage gag. I'm a proud mother of sons. I spend my weekends doing whatever I want. I own multiple successful businesses. And those things were all true. Okay. Many of them still are, or there are different versions of themselves. But here's what it was like when I was alone. Here are my losses and what the curtain looked like when it closed for the day. I was embracing my ADHD, but I was struggling with an eating disorder because of it. I was in my healing journey and being ridiculed by those I set boundaries with, right? And judged by those not understanding. I was viewed as being mean or rude or cold. I wrote a book that called Not Just the Way I Was Treated by My Father Out, but exposed the family predator and those that kept it a secret. Backlash was awful. I was receiving hate from the people I grew up knowing to love me the most, right? My grossly perfect marriage was being affected by the new circumstances in my life. So the one thing that was for sure in my life, my couple goals, were becoming strangers to each other. One of those successful businesses that I talked about online that at one time won awards. Huh, yep, bye to that too. Like a punch to the teeth, life was happening to my business too. The sweat equity, the tears, the years that went into it. Bye, peace, it left. My adored animals, well, my neighbor had shot my dog. and my adored family house pig was mauled by a stray dog. So I was filled with sadness and anger for my pets, right? I had loved ones that passed away that I had to be the caregiver of. Didn't have to be, but I was the caregiver of. And with grief came a loss of identity of them because they were from the same side of the family. They were the only ones left, right? So who am I if they no longer exist? Where's that part of my life in that story? So heartache, stress, confusion, anger, guilt, resentment, exhaustion, all the things that come with losses of all kinds, I was feeling at the same time. You see, although I'm very vulnerable and open, right, and I don't really keep much close. I did write a book about the most horrible things that happened to me, right? So I'm very vulnerable and open. Of course, I'm in the trenches and I have struggles like anybody else. Um, Outwardly, what my highlight reel was showing, that was genuine. But like I said, I was in the trenches like we all are. If you think that people out there that are sharing their highlight reel on social media don't have struggles behind the scenes, you're a liar and you're being lied to. Okay. Nobody has a perfect life. And if they do, please introduce me so I can ask them how they do it. Okay. So what did I do? I got overwhelmed. I isolated a little bit as we do. I did the toxic stuff first, right? But then I moved on. I kept it pushing. At first, not in a healthy way, like I said, but eventually I stabilized myself and got back on track. Now, some things I will say I'm still in the trenches on, right? I'm climbing my way out, climbing up that mountain. And when people hear the phrase moving on, they often imagine leaving something behind, right? And I don't believe healing is necessarily about moving on. So I think it's about carrying the fire forward, right? So let's change the word from moving on to moving forward, right? Because some losses are too significant to simply just move on from, but moving forward changes the story, not the journey. You don't move on from losing a parent. You don't move on from the marriage that shaped you. You don't move on from the business you poured your heart into that failed. The goal isn't to forget. The goal isn't to pretend it didn't happen. It, which was always my go-to move, right? Just out of sight, out of mind. The goal is to learn how to carry what remains without letting it burn you alive. So I want to talk about carrying that fire forward, right? Loss doesn't just take people. When we hear the word grief, most of us think death, but grief shows up whenever something meaningful ends. You grieve people, you grieve relationships, pets, businesses, dreams, futures you imagined, versions of yourself that no longer exist. Sometimes the hardest funerals are for things that never physically died. The marriage that ended or looks different and needs work now, the business that collapsed even after the sacrifices you made for it, the career that didn't work out, the life you thought that you'd live by now, the goals you missed but always wanted to achieve. Loss is loss. Right? And grief doesn't care whether there's a casket or an urn involved. If you think someone sharing their highlight reel isn't struggling, like I said, you're being lied to. Okay, because nobody gets out of this life without going through a hardship. The common thread is this: something mattered deeply, and now it looks different. To many people, too many people judge themselves for grieving things that aren't death. But grief is simply love and investment with nowhere to go. I watched my sister struggle with the loss of our dad because of that love and investment. They had a special bond. They spoke every day. He was her hero for every emotion. He was her person. Her love and investment has nowhere to go. And she was so codependent on that love that she is completely lost right now. And my heart aches for her, right? When we had to make the decision to close that one business I was talking about, our baby, right? It took months because all of those feelings that we hid from to avoid the loss were not easy. Because if it matters to you, you will mourn its farewell, regardless of what kind of loss it is. You don't have to heal the same way as someone else, right? One of the biggest lessons I learned through loss is that healing is not a group project. You have support, but two people can experience the same loss and have completely different journeys, like my sister and I have. She mourns a loving father, and I grieve a relationship I didn't have with my dad. Okay. Grief is different. The loss is the same, but the grief is different. And neither one of us are wrong for that. And I get asked all the time, how do I feel about my sister sharing and grieving and mourning my dad when we have conversations and sharing about their love? Do I feel envious of that? Does that bother me? And the true answer is no. I actually love that she was loved that much by him, even though I wasn't necessarily in the same way, right? I love that for her. Because healing isn't about comparing pain. It's about honoring your truth. So stop measuring your grief against someone else's timeline. Okay. My sister won't reach out to people for support because she doesn't want to be a burden because he died over a year ago and she feels like she should be over it. Okay. There's no timeline on grief. There really isn't. So stop wondering why you're not where somebody else is and their feelings when it comes to grief. The goal isn't to heal the same. The goal is to heal honestly, or you won't. The fire never goes out. I think people have been kind of given a false promise when it comes to healing, right? We've been told that one day we'll wake up and it won't hurt anymore, that one day we'll be over it. But but what if that's not the goal? What if the fire never goes out? What if we simply learn how to carry it? At first, grief is a wildfire. It consumes everything. You can't think, you can't breathe, you can't imagine joy ever returning. Then eventually it becomes a campfire. Still there with warmth, still part of your story, but no longer destroying everything around it, right? It's contained. The love remains, the lessons remain, the memories remain, the scars remain, the fire remains, right? But you become stronger at carrying it. The heavy weight isn't like a load of bricks. Okay, you distribute it easier. The goal isn't to extinguish the fire, it's to hold it as if it's a pilot light, a small flame that lives on inside, kept alive, but not a threat. One of the greatest acts of courage is choosing to build again after loss. After loss, many people stop living because they're afraid to lose again, afraid to love again, afraid to trust again, afraid to start another business, afraid to dream another dream. But carrying the fire forward means understanding something powerful. The loss happened because something beautiful existed to you. The relationship mattered, the person mattered, the dream mattered, the business mattered. The pain is proof that you dare to care. And if you have the courage to build once, you have the courage to build again. Not because you're unbreakable, but because you've already survived being broken. Your future does not dishonor your past. Your happiness does not betray your grief. Your success does not erase your loss. You're allowed to laugh again. You're allowed to love again. You're allowed to build again. And I want to leave you with this. Whatever wildfire you have spread because of losses you are enduring today, whether it is death, divorce, betrayal, a failed business, a dream that didn't survive, you are not being asked to forget it. You are not being asked to leave it behind. You're being asked to carry the fire forward.
Ashley,
Yeah.
I can guarantee you, you know me, sis. I will be reaching out every time we do a summit, okay? So, number one, you don't have to worry about that. Number two, absolutely crushed it. Got to learn some new things about you again during the summit. So, love that. I have asked two or three speakers to share some new things with me. And one of them even put that in her announcement a couple of weeks ago. And I think that speaker knows who I'm talking about because she's on our Zoom room right now. But Ashley, I absolutely love that. And I just want to touch on one piece before we hand this over to our Zoom room and before Ashley takes over the MC role, which I think a lot of people are excited about because I have a tendency to ramble on during the introductions because everybody who is a part of the MSV, the Mountain Summit Virtual, means something to me. I don't ask random people to be a part of this summit because everybody knows that New Beginnings Motivation and the summit is founded on Joe. And if anybody comes to try to harm the mountain and disrupts Joey's legacy, they're never coming back. And everybody that's been here and is here this morning means something. And that's why there's certain men and women I ask to be the kickoff. And Ashley has gotten that role. And there will be others who will follow in Ashley's greatness. So you said something that was extremely powerful at the end of this, Ash. Yeah. And that was don't stop dreaming. I'm going to share two stories here. My brother Joe struggled with his weight, but he got a hold of that. This guy became a 14-time Ironman finisher. There is 2 1-minute interviews on the internet because of what he did to become a 14-time Ironman finisher. I've heard stories of people doing one and how they barely made it through. My brother had a dream to be an Ironman because he wanted to race in Kona. Sadly, he never got to do the Kona race, but he got qualified. And he had the dream to do that. Don't stop dreaming because of the losses. That's what Ashleah was saying there. My dream was to build NBM and this movement to give opportunities to what Ashleah just shared with us. To everyone that's coming up. My other dream is to go skydiving with Ashleah. So I can see my mother's laughter right there, and I'm probably going to hear about that later this evening. But we're going to make that happen, Ash, before I'm 45. Sorry, Mom, I love you. So I say that publicly. Oh boy, I saw the mom look. So don't stop dreaming because of the losses. Okay? Now, we have a tradition here at the Mountain Summit Virtual where we open it up to our Zoom room because everybody loves to pour in and support. And typically, hands start flying up pretty quickly. And I see that Miss Grana had her hand up first. So go ahead.
Ashley, I love hearing you speak. You grow so much when you speak. Like the more you speak, you grow into like such a beautiful speaker. Not that you were bad before, but it's like you just get better and better every time. And I really liked what you were saying about like you really mourn because you really care, right? Like that that struck a chord in me and I was like, oh, right, the truth of that. But I can't wait to see how you handle the rest of the 2 days and your light is needed here and I love you.
Love you too. Thank you.
Go ahead, Deb.
Ashley. Hey, baby. I am tickled you're emceeing. I adore David, but it's just like it's good to mix it up. And you are wonderful. And I'm so looking forward to this. Your presentation, sharing the highlight reel, don't fall for the highlight reel. I mean, they're lovely. They are what they are. They are highlights. Pertinent. And especially the stop comparing and, specifically in this realm, stop comparing pain. My notation was, stop comparing is just great advice across the board in general. We mess ourselves up. But my takeaway specifically with regard to pain, each individual grieves and they grieve in their own way. And what we can do is recognize it, honor it, and respect it. And that's what David has cultivated.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I got a hey baby. Yes.
Thank you, Deb. Go ahead, Bobby. Yes, you did, Ash. Bobby J in the house.
What's up, everyone? Yeah, dude, I'm well, first of all, David, I'm fired up to be here. Thank you for doing this, man. You're impacting people to a high level, so I just want to express gratitude for that. Ashley, I think you know how I feel about you. It's been a cool journey, just knowing you and being inspired by you in so many ways. You have this unique ability to balance this idea of I don't care what we think, all consideration of, as a business person, there's a responsibility to that, right? Because it's like, okay, in so many ways, we want to be ourselves and be authentic and enter and carry ourselves in the world in a way that is truly ourselves, but also directly connected to the idea of messaging, marketing is truly prioritizing what your consumer is thinking, right? So it's like, how do we balance this idea of like being authentically and genuinely ourselves, and then being able to take into consideration what other people are thinking about our businesses and how we are, displaying ourselves as experts or professionals in our field. And I've never seen anybody balance it as well as you do. And that I envy you for, and I'm taking notes. So love you, girl. Fired up to see MC today.
Thank you. Love you for that. The best.
Thank you, Bobby. Go ahead, Tish, and we'll take Tish as the last one.
Okay, Ashley, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yes, ma'am.
I know you've been practicing just like Sierra and me and maybe Mom Vrablik, but I want you to say, "Hey, baby."
Oh, okay. Hey, baby.
Oh, yeah, what do you think?
Oh my God, I'm in trouble.
Thank you, my friend.
Look what you
You're
started, Dad.
awesome.
Oh, you're so great. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. And David, as always, love you and adore you, brother.
Love you too, sis. An absolutely amazing job. And I agree with Bobby, what he said there. You balance that perfectly. And, that's something that I was taking notes too as you were talking, because I'm working on doing the same thing for myself as well. So I'm looking forward to continuing to learn from everybody here as we continue to go through the day. And I just want, before I hand everything over to Mrs. Burkeen and to take over the MC role and I do what I do, I want everybody to see near the end of all of this, you see how we're joking here and how we're having fun? Even with grief, you can still joke and laugh and have fun. I have so many incredibly funny stories about my brother that we used to torment our mother about when we were kids. And I'll tell one of the stories now because we have a couple minutes. Joe told me I better not do this. I was 8 years old when we were living in Apollo Beach, Florida. But because that I was a stubborn little kid at that age and I kept him on his toes because he was always the protective older brother and always looked out for me and being the guardian. And it was on a weekend and Mom was doing the chores around the house and making beds and all this stuff. I decided to take one of my green rubber snakes and I decided to put it underneath the pillow on my mom's side. And as you can see for the VIP members, she's shaking her head and she remembers this story. And Mom comes in with the laundry from the laundry room and changes out the sheets. All of a sudden, we hear a blood-curdling scream from the other side of the house because she thinks it's real. And she comes out of the room and automatically thinks it's me because I was the problematic, troublemaking son because obviously I'm the youngest and the best-looking one, right? I blame Joe because that's what every little brother does. And Joe took the blame. But Mom knew that it was me, but she let Joey take the blame. Telling these kind of stories is the greatest way to heal, is the greatest way to carry the fire forward. And we're going to continue to tell these stories, and I hope it's not only me that does this throughout the next 2 days. And I'm going to call out people every once in a while to tell a funny story. And I may even call out Mom Vrablik to tell a funny story of either myself or of Joey because she has more than I do. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to introduce our beautiful MC of the Mountain Summit Virtual. And she's going to introduce our next up speaker that I would never want to meet in a dark alley because this guy is built like a grizzly bear and he is a protective soul and an amazing man. So with that being said, Ash, it's all yours.
All right. Good morning, Mountain Summit. Let's get it. So first, let's do some